Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
Welcome back to VGN Weekly. I am your host, John Hine, along with Josh Buckley. This week we welcome a new league to the VGN family, so to speak. It's a Triple Bypass Racing League, and we have the owner, Corey, along with Mark Hertzog, who is a sponsor of this series. So we're going to welcome them and get a little bit of information about their series and what they do. But before that, we got to celebrate all the winners from this past week on VGN. Started Sunday night with Dan Hill dominating at the Charlotte Roval in the OBRL series. Dan took the lead almost right from the get-go and went on to lead the whole race, leading by more than a few seconds there to take that win. And Tuesday night, I do believe Kyle Gretsch right here for the Triple Bypass guys. You guys raced at Sonoma here real quick. Tell me a little bit about that race and how did the ARCA cars handle at Sonoma?
The race itself went really well. The car handled good. It was a 40-lap race. Kyle won it with a very good strategy call. He stayed out, no tires, no fuel. Him and I think one other individual, and they both finished in the top five. Fastest guy on the night, Tyler Merritt, went in for fuel and tires, but couldn't make up the pit difference time. And so Kyle got it on a great strategy call and a great run.
Man, those strategy calls, I've been on the both sides of those where I feel like, okay, hey, I just did something smart, and have that attitude, okay, a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again. Mm-hmm. But I've also been on the other side of that going, man, I had the car to beat and someone was smarter than me, evidently. So those are always fun races. Those are entertaining races to watch. But then we went over to Thursday, though. You know what? In Red Light Racing, they were doing their thing at the New Smyrna. Yeah, not only crowned a new champion there, Josh, but how'd the race go there at New Smyrna?
It was actually a pretty good race. Setup-wise, it went pretty well. Pretty much what you expect with that track. The lane shifted throughout the race. You went from the bottom being dominant to the top and just kind of kept shifting around throughout the race. So you had to find your way. In the end, Eric Stout did lead a bunch of laps. Something happened towards the front. He got shifted out of the way. His little brother took over and held off for there. Patrick Stout getting the win at New Smyrna, and his older brother Eric Stout taking the championship.
Didn't they see that in NASCAR a few years ago where they crowned like Bobby Labonte the champion, but Terry won the race? So having the brothers' night, I could have swore that happened. I think like in Atlanta. I don't even remember the year, but I'll swear I think that happened. But so very cool night there for you guys at Red Light there. BRL on Saturday night, then that was the last race of the week, and James Lowe came away with the win there at Kern Raceway, Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway, that is. And in a race that was bizarre and notable because the flagman seemed to have misplaced the yellow flag. There was a spin like right under the flag stand and no caution. Never seen anything like it in iRacing. But the racing was really good. You saw a couple of guys take some shots. John Wilson dominated the race early. James made his way through. A lot of comers and goers. That is such a fun track to race. And, for short trackers, that really is like the super speedway of their season when that track gets on that schedule. So, but you know what? Now we get to talk about the cool stuff here. And like I said, we get to welcome a new series to the VGN family, the Triple Bypass Racing. And Mr. Corey, that is your deal, your baby. And tell us a little bit about the concept and, how long have you guys been at it?
Well, thanks for having us, by the way. I'd like to make sure we say hello to Mark Hertzog, who's one of our league admins and races with us every week and been a longtime friend. So happy to have him here today, too. So the short version is that several of us have been racing together since about 2000, 2001, and in various iterations of NASCAR racing. And then we had a league going at that time. It was a private league with, of course, back then you had to have hosted servers and all of that great stuff. And then we took a break for quite a long period of time, and we got back together after about, I'd say 8 or 9, maybe 10 years. And we sort of got reconnected, and we got re-involved with the league, but it didn't quite work out. So we decided, the core of us decided to go off and create a new iRacing league, which would have been about 2.5, 3 years ago, I guess. 2.5, I think. And so we started Triple Bypass Racing on the iRacing platform, and our focus was really on friendly racing. We're not a ultra competitive league. We have a pretty thick rule book, but the racing itself is, I think it's been largely very friendly, and Mark may take exception to that since I cuss him out every other race, but for the most part, we're a pretty friendly group. We have an iRacing cap as well. Like we capped it at 3,500 iRating, so that we make sure that we're not signaling to people that this is a high, a skill level league where you're prepping for Road to Pro or anything like that. But so there's about 8 or 9 of us that started the league up, and it was just us racing, and we put the word out, and some folks that we had been racing with previously came over, joined us, and last time I looked at some stats, I think we're now in the top 10 largest iRacing oval leagues on the service. Wow. I don't know how accurate those stats are, but that's the stats that were given to me. In any case, we've got 5 nights where we race. We've got 5 completely different series. Tuesdays, as you guys know, we're currently running ARCA, and we're focused on short tracks. We previously ran like late models, and we ran SRX for a while on Tuesday nights. We've tried pretty much to keep that as a short track series, and then that's Tuesday. Then Wednesday nights, we're currently running a GT3 road series. No, GT4, right, Mark? Yeah, GT4. 3, right, 3. Sorry, my bad.
The legacy Ferrari, the 295 Ferrari.
Yeah. So I'm new to road racing, so pardon me. Anyway, that's a great time. And then Thursday nights, we've been running Xfinity for several seasons. And Friday nights, we have like a mixed bag of plate racing. We throw all kinds of combos of cars and tracks, trying to set up super speedway racing for lots of fun. And then Sunday is our premier, we call it our Premier League, where we're currently running the next gen, and that's been really good. We've had to go with some custom setups, as you guys know. There's been some challenges with iRacing next gen car, so we have a partner in Premier Racing Setups to help us out there. So that's sort of the rundown on the league, and we've got a very active Discord, and we're just I feel super grateful to have all these guys volunteering their time to keep the league going, and it's been successful.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I think those are such great leagues where it's just kind of laid back and whatnot. I know some people are competitive, and that's okay too. But
yeah.
You know what? The community thing. I've been involved in a few leagues where there's definitely a community vibe to them, and those are the leagues I've been in the absolute longest.
Yeah.
I hate to use the word loyalty, but the ones that I will continue to go to. But Mark, I want to bring you in on this conversation here a little bit. I've known you for years. You're also a BRL, regular, semi-regular.
Yeah,
I think we've raced now together probably 2, 3, 4 years now. But Tuesday night is the one that everybody sees here on VGN. So for a second here, I'd like to focus on that being the ARCA car. I know you guys focus mostly on short track, but can you tell me, what about the ARCA car, and why did you guys settle on it, if you know, and how's that been for the season?
Well, we found that it's producing really, really good racing throughout the pack, and most of the setups we use iRacing Fixed. A couple that we get, a couple from the builder that Al mentioned, for the ones that we don't have tracks. But this season is basically an East-West combined. We looked at the East Series, the West Series, and all the tracks that iRacing has that are on both. We combined them together to make one series. And it's really we've been pulling, I'd say, 20 to 26 cars a night. And it's been really good, clean racing throughout the pack. And and everybody seems to get along. Is getting really well along, and the racing has actually been very good. And I think we're averaging probably 3 cautions maybe a night for 100 to 150 lap races.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that and say, yeah, Mark's right. The racing has been fantastic. When we were testing the new ARCA car for consideration to take over the Tuesday night, we found that it was very undesirable in 1.5 mile tracks. The aero modeling that iRacing has applied to that car means that it's almost impossible to pass, and you're in a pack all the time. And that wasn't the kind of racing that we wanted, which is why we when we tested it for a short track series, it was a great fit for Tuesday night, because it is fantastic on short tracks. It really is a great car.
Yeah, and Josh, you're broadcasting their races, aren't you? You're in the booth for those, aren't you?
Yeah, the races that we're covering, I'm there for you.
Yeah. So what has been your observation watching the guys?
Honestly, it's been exciting. The guys, the biggest word that I have to really put back on the few races that I've covered is the respect throughout the field. These guys, and I've said it on the broadcast, just watching the way they race, obviously they're racing hard and everything like that, but if a guy's tracked them down and clearly faster, they really don't try to hold them up that well. Yeah, there's bumps along the way, cautions happen. That's going to happen. It is racing, but it's really cool to see with the different skill levels of the different guys. It's some guys that are just faster than others, things like that. Throughout the field, it's the respect on the track. And every time I can see that goes back to the league and everybody's that's helping run that, because that shows something for that league, because they put the effort in and it shows on the track.
Nice. You have a question for them?
You really kind of took mine with the ARCA car, but so with the setups going to that kind of thing, where you do kind of some of the iRacing setups and some of the setups with Premiere, have you ever considered maybe just going to custom setups fully? Maybe not. Is there any discussion in that? I'm just curious in that, being in a league that one of my series, we'd run custom setups for one of them.
Yeah, so we've always been fixed setup league, period, right? We're not going to go to opens. So finding a good setup is sort of important, because everybody's going to be running it. It's not like guys can make much in the way of changes, as you know. So we committed to full custom setups for the next gen series. And then when we got going on the ARCA car on Tuesdays, and the track selection we had, we realized that in some cases there weren't any setups at all, even from iRacing, available for the ARCA car at those tracks. So that was a natural for us to go back to Premiere and say, hey, can you build us some setups for that? And then this is our second season, right, Mark, with the ARCA car? Yeah.
Second season.
So, and then that carried over the same scenario for this season. However, we've also found a couple of tracks where the setup, iRacing's not going to hear this, the setups were garbage for those tracks that they provided. So we just said, hey, can you give us a better setup for those tracks? To answer your question directly, setups cost money, and we're a free league, and we don't charge anybody to race with us, and everything's run on donations and so forth and so on. So if we find a setup that feels good enough, we'll run it, and we won't have to source that custom setup for the league. So that's the way we've approached it. Looking for sponsors.
Well, real quick, plug your sponsor. I know, Mark, you're currently a sponsor, so I don't know if you want to get into dollar. You can tell me to no comment, but what is the financial range to make a commitment to sponsor? What are you looking for? Just so people out there can know.
Well, when you get
that would
into
probably be more Al's kind of thing.
When you get into broadcasting, you guys, you're soaking us, like crazy. You're all getting rich off of broadcasting iRacing leagues. I know. No, it's tough because when you get into sponsorship, there's an expectation of what you're going to be delivering, and I've answered this question a couple times before, and the expectations include you have to build social channels. You have to support that sponsor through, every way possible. You're trying to push that sponsor's product. It's usually energy drinks or some other damn thing down the throats of the people who are racing. and it just gets to be a burden that I'm not sure anybody in TBP wants to take on. So
Yeah.
we've really leaned on our members, and our members have stepped up and said, hey, we want to contribute to broadcasting. Sometimes it's one race, and in other cases it's a whole whack of races. They say, hey, we want to support our league and we want to see it on YouTube with a pro broadcast team. Or we have a Patreon now, so guys are chipping in, $5 and $20 a month to help pay for things like trophies and hosting. And so that's a long answer. The short answer is I don't have a number, and I'm not sure I want to get into the business of.
Yeah, as I was asking that, I didn't think you really wanted to get into a number, but
that's fine. It's fine.
I was trying to figure out a way to word it.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I just don't think that's the direction we want to head in as a league.
Yeah.
I've always thought that the best for anybody, and this goes for anybody that owns an iRacing league, I've always thought the best partnerships are the ones that have an e-commerce attached to their business,
right.
Because you've got folks that, number one, never mind the people that are supporting the league, they come from all four corners of the world. People watching can come from all 4 points of the world too, and you've got an e-commerce where you can ship to those places or whatever the case might be. Those to me have always been the unicorn sponsorship, where hey, we're not going to be able to make you rich, but hey, we can help get your name out there to some level,
right.
So like I said, those are harder to find.
Yeah. So for example, our Sunday night series has a title sponsor. There's a fellow by the name of Tex Nichols who's in our league, and he runs a AMSOIL dealership, oil and lubricants and all that. So, he was kind enough to send us a little money every season, and we've named that series the NicholsOilPros.com Cup Series. So those kind of opportunities exist, and that kind of money you're talking about a few $100s. You're not talking about thousands of dollars. And he gets some benefit. Some guys have ordered some of his product online, and those are the kind of relationships I'd love to have more of. Someone like Mark has stepped up this season to really help us out with these ARCA broadcasts, and also another fellow by the name of Terry Brooks. And for the most part, the Cup Series has consisted of, I think, 10 different individual sponsorships for 14 races. So, yeah, it's been great.
So we'll have to chalk that up as a episode that we should do here, talk league sponsorships and get people's thoughts out. That'd be a very interesting show, actually.
That's pretty much how most of our broadcasting started. People wanted to get races broadcast, and they were offering to, hey, if we found an initial partner who would do race by race as people were able to sponsor, and he was able to fit it into the schedule, he would do them, and then people wanted to get whole seasons done, so then we had to try to find somebody who would have that whole block of time available. Right. I know I approached VGN last season, but you guys didn't have any time available. This season you had some of the dates available, and I was able to go ahead and get those. And then Terry picked up the whole rest of the season with another partner broadcaster.
Yeah, that's that part of iRacing, I think there was just a handful of broadcasters when I first started iRacing. We're talking, 13 some odd years ago, so but now it's, the funny thing is about the broadcast, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, because they all look good and it's all cool, but there's streamers that the broadcast is just basically a streamer watching. And then there's actual broadcast, something you might actually see on network television. And, I think those are far and few between. I can tell you VGN is one of those that pride themselves to kind of go towards the latter, something you would turn on and see, traditional, from a traditional media source. But yeah, that's, you guys, how much do you think you've, and this might be a question for you, being broadcasted, what do you think that has done to membership? Do you think that's do you think of it as a recruiting tool, or do you think it really is just more of a, hey, this is a added benefit for our members that their families and them can go back and watch races?
Well, I think you've identified both things. I think I always tell our broadcast partners that our league broadcasts are vanity projects. Like, people just like seeing their car on track, and like hearing their name on YouTube, and they can grab their wife around the shoulder and say, look, I'm on TV, or their kids or whomever. So it's
especially with smart TVs, they're literally on their TV and not
right,
a handheld anymore.
Right. So I think that's a part. I think that's probably the bigger part of it for our league is that sense of community and a little bit of recognition factor for everybody who plays a part of it. But I will say that we definitely have people come in the door to check out our league, and they quite often ask, are there any races broadcast? And I always get always curious about that question, because are they purely here just so they can get on the broadcast and make a mess of it, or are they
glory hounds?
Right, exactly. But anyway, I think it helps in recruiting. I think it legitimizes your league to a degree from an outsider looking in. If you've got broadcasts and somebody hits your YouTube channel and you see seasons and seasons and seasons of broadcasts, I mean, I think that helps legitimize and maybe bring a few people in the door. But that's not why we do it. We definitely do it for the fun factor of having our membership broadcast in a race.
Yes, it's fun having my wife tell me, you suck. She's actually had that. I left my mic open one night, and she was just sitting in the background yelling at me, and everybody's going, who's that? Who's that? What the hell?
Well, I never tell my wife the YouTube channel address, because that way I can go into the living room after the race is over and lie to her about how well I've done. So that way it's a little bit easier.
I like it.
Yeah, I am in a few broadcast leagues and all that, and I don't know if I go back and watch them, but my wife has figured out when I am watching it, something must have happened. Either A, I'm irritated at somebody I just raced with, or B, I won. She's figured out it's usually one of those two. And I think I think she's kind of sensed, okay, and then goes into that, okay, which one is it mode, trying to discreetly figure out which one it is. So I never thought about it from the legitimate standpoint, with the seasons and seasons, all that kind of stuff. That is a really, really good point about that. It's, I guess it's the 2000s version of a business card,
Yeah. I mean,
back in the day.
Yeah. Either way. And, another thing, just, this is pretty minor, but I think that if anybody were to watch any of our broadcasts, they probably pick up pretty quick that, this is not a pro racing league. Like, I don't mean from a broadcasting standpoint, I mean from the racing standpoint. I think it's a message, even things like having nicknames or whatever. I think the general vibe you get from our league is just friendly. And I think it was mentioned earlier about, the clean racing we try to work on and respect on the track. So I think it's all a package. I think it's all just sort of helps us say who we are.
Well, it's funny that you say it that way, because I'll be honest with you, and I'm not trying to be a VGN homer here because I'm on VGN, obviously, but a lot of even competitive, non-competitive, if you're a race fan and there's a good race, you can have good racing in sim. There's the OBRL and a couple of our leagues that, Red Light, and, you see these leagues in the racing on, some, if not most weekends, I think rivals anything you can see on Flow. The difference is, they're virtual. It's a virtual broadcast as opposed to real. And, I've even been, I travel a lot. I'm in the hotel rooms a lot. And you know what? There's times that I'll just find random broadcast and watch, rather than go to Flow. I have a Flow subscription.
Right.
But, I like seeing buddies I know. It's kind of cool. If I go through and I see someone's name on the ticker that I know, I will stop and watch the broadcast.
Sure.
See how they're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's not unusual. And so I do think people can get a following and things like that. So, I mean, all that stuff kind of, I don't want to say completely blurs the line, because obviously the real world counterparts, they're the one making tens of thousands of dollars every week selling T-shirts. To my knowledge, I don't think any of us are going to be selling T-shirts in the virtual world, but who knows? That's why I run the high side, because that's how you sell T-shirts, on dirt. You get up there and run that wall. You have to sell a T-shirt. So, but Mark, I want to go back to you real quick here. We're talking about the different, kind of functions and what we get out of it. But you are a volunteer, not only sponsoring, but you have, admin and things like that from what Al has just said here. What about that? What do you get out of that by volunteering your time? I don't, I'm not saying anything monetary or anything, but just from a, being involved standpoint, why the involvement and what do you, I mean, personally, what do you get out of it?
Because I want the league to be successful, and part of that is for me is being able to help in how I can and to try to interact with the core group of guys and try to get people to come in, and if they have issues, what can we do to help you? And everybody brings somebody in, and everybody's got an idea, and we can try to get that out and see what plays well, what doesn't play well, give things a try. Just as like this current season in the Cup, a lot of guys wanted to implement a choose rule because they're doing that in the Cup series now. So we implemented, but only the leader gets to choose. Everybody else has got to stay in line, and we'll try it out and see how that works. And if we have issues, and maybe we'll expand it to the whole field can choose next season, depending on how it goes. So, being able to interact with the guys and get those kind of ideas, and it helps solidify the core and makes everybody feel like they're actually truly part of a league, not just here to show up and race and then, see you later, see you next week. People they're interacting with each other throughout the week in the Discord, and the way they've had a lot of the guys that are closer to some of the tracks have had meetups at some of the tracks, and at Martinsville, you guys, Alan, and a few of the guys there were met there, and you probably, I don't know, I think Josh might remember the beer ferry story with Gretsch, so it helps solidify that community and makes people want to stay and build it for themselves and the vision of what they want a good racing league to be,
Well, and guys like Mark are we've probably got, I don't know, a dozen guys now. I lose track, but I'd say probably a dozen of us who all are admins of series. And we sort of all come together as a group all the time on Discord. And as Mark says, like, somebody will bring up an idea for the league and we'll sort of hash it out. Not everybody agrees generally, but we'll hash it out. And then sometimes we'll try it in one series and not in another. So like Mark was talking about the choose rule, and stages came into our Cup racing last season, I think. And, we didn't trickle that down into the ARCA series. We wanted ARCA to be pure, right? Like just no stage breaks and no choose rule and none of that, no playoffs, none of that stuff. So
right now, Josh is thanking you for that. Imagine the broadcast trying to figure out people line up.
The funny thing is that the Cup series has the most cautions by far of any series that we run, and we throw in the damn stage breaks to add another one to it. But getting back to what Mark said, he's the kind of guy that makes the league work. It's easy for me to say, oh, well, me and a couple of guys started a league and we're running it. That's not actually how the league runs. The league runs with guys like Mark and the other admins that run the series. And like, there's this committee, basically, informal as it is, that makes all these decisions on the league. And then the other thing that just happened recently was, sorry if I'm dragging on too long here, but I wanted to make this point. We had donations coming in all the time from individual members. We would put a thing up in Discord, hey, if you want to donate 5 or 10 or whatever bucks to help pay for stuff, great. So we've been doing that for a couple of years, and people kept saying, oh, well, we should have a Patreon. So we finally said, okay, we'll put a Patreon up. It's just one other way for somebody who wants to. But the interesting thing is that we've now started to get a bunch of feedback from the Patreon members that we never really got directly from, in other ways. So they've also been a voice in sort of making some decisions about how the seasons are going to shape up in the future, or rule changes and things like that. So my point is that the only way you can have a good league is for people like Mark and the dozen other guys and the Patreon members and the league on the whole, is that everybody's got to be rowing the same way. And that is, have fun, be respectful. We're here for a good time. This is not real life, nobody's life or death. And if you can keep those things going in your mind, I think you can have a great league.
Josh, before you ask the next question here, but I was going to ask you, because you're a league owner and you've got folks that help you. I was going to ask you directly, Al kind of touched on it a lot, but your volunteers, the folks that help, review the race tape and penalties and keep your league running and everything else, help you keep the league running. Can you tell me real quick the importance of that, even through your perspective? It's probably going to be a lot of the same that Al's talking, but from your perspective, talk about your folks that help kind of behind the scenes a little bit.
Yeah, no, the admins that I have for both the series, I'm telling you, one guy can't do it all, especially if you're going to run multiple series where you guys have even more nights than I do. I got 2 nights. So you guys, much respect to that, because as soon as you start listing off all the nights you run it, I'm like, wow. Anyway, but I'm telling you, without the help of the admins in both series, I mean, they put so much time, and effort, whether it's reviewing tape, it is the conversations we'll have behind the scenes on, this guy did this, what's the penalty for this, what do we want to do here? And I'm telling you, and I'm sure it's probably for you guys too, some of those conversations can get heated. I've gotten heated with some of my admins before. They've gotten heated with me. We've thrown jabs at each other. It's part of it. It's all of us just trying so hard to put the best possible product out that we can. So I don't think there's really a way. It's really immeasurable to really give the respect to the people that devote the time. They don't get anything out of this. There's no paycheck, no nothing. It's literally just to help the product get better in the long run. So without those guys, honestly, I'm pretty sure it's the same with you guys. The leagues would not be what they are today without that. So you can't say enough about them.
You have a question now?
So curiosity on this, I'm not sure how much of this you guys do. Team racing. I don't know if you have a thing on this. Some leagues do, some leagues don't. If there's like a team points, do you have like a max amount of drivers that can be on one said team? Things like that. Just because I know I've talked to a few of the guys or interviewed a few of the guys, and they'll talk about people they work with and stuff like that, and they sound like they're on a team. So I didn't know if you guys had any like team rules, team points, anything like that.
You take that, Mark.
No, we don't have any type of official team racing or team points. There's a lot of guys that like to run together, or they kind of all hang out together. But for the most part, everybody's pretty much on their own, and they kind of gravitate to who they gravitate to. But we don't have a specific team organization for team points or owner points or constructor points or anything of that sort. So it's pretty much just everybody's there to run, and some people they put together teams to run some of the endurance events together. We've had some of the guys run the 24 Hours of Daytona a few times. One set of them actually, they won their split one time in the GTP, which was really good, really great accomplishment for them. But that's about the extent of the teams that we have, is people who get to band together for endurance racing.
You guys have, what did you say, run 4 nights a week, or is it 5 nights a week, right? 5. Yeah. One of the most important things I've talked about a few times on this show previously is, when you just join a league, winning and all that kind of stuff, that really should be secondary when you join a league. It's learning the league culture and, how to fit in, what are things like, Al, let me ask you, if I was to ask you to describe your league culture, what would you describe? How would you describe it?
I think our focus is on a club of friends. I think that you'll find that the people who have been with us the longest, anybody who runs a league knows that there's like a certain amount of turnover. Like, people come in, they don't stick, and they leave. And then other people, they come in, they'll stick for a while, but then life gets in the way and they sort of drop off. I mean, that's typically the way a lot of hobbies run. But I think that when people come into our league and they see that we're open to, pretty much, we support all walks of life. We're certainly not exclusive from that standpoint. We welcome pretty much anybody who's got a good head on their shoulders and shares, good values. But I think the underlying point would be that our culture is all about making friends through racing. And there's something very unique about a competition, a platform for competition, where you're competing for more or less the same guys week in and week out. And that changes the dynamic of expectations. We get people who come in and maybe their only exposure to iRacing has been public lobbies. And as you know, there's almost no social structure associated with that. And really, for the most part, it's probably more toxic than not. So in any case, you'll get folks who come in, guys will come into the league, and you can tell right away that they're used to only racing publics. And the way you can tell that is they never give an inch. They'll put their car in places that are way too dangerous for, safety of not bringing out a caution. They'll battle people on the comms about this, that, and the other. And it doesn't take very long for those folks to either realize, oh, wait, this is not the same as Publix, because the guy that I just yelled at or the guy I just ran off the track, I'm racing him again next week or the week after. The week after, he's really a good guy who knew. And then or they don't adapt, and this is not for them, and our league is not for them. Boy, I'm long-winded, but the short answer is it's a club of friends playing iRacing, and that's the culture that we try to build.
Yeah, and Mark, I'll do the follow-up to that with you. I'm brand new and I want to join your league. Now, how is it structured with all those nights? Do you guys filter somebody? Okay, if you're going to join here, come run with us on Wednesday nights, and then we'll promote you to the other. Or is it as soon as you come in, you're welcome to run all 5 nights? And having said that, what would be your advice to somebody joining the league new?
Yeah, to join is basically get on the Discord, put in your league application, and then there's a little spreadsheet. You pick a number. The only night you can't race initially is the Cup Series. So we have a four race probation period for the Cup Series, and then but you're welcome. You could theoretically join on Monday and be racing Cup on Sunday if you ran the whole week. So it's not a big deal to meet your 4 race thing. I would say if you're going to join, probably try to run Tuesday and Thursday with the Cup. I mean the ARCA and the Xfinity, just to get used. Because like you say, like Al was mentioning, if you get people that are coming from public lobbies, they're not used to the longer races. Having to make green flag pit stops, because usually our Xfinity has to usually get at least 1 green flag pit stop in there, and they're not used to having to do that, and they're not used to running 40 or 50 laps green. So running ARCA first and then Xfinity before they do transition to the Cup, if that's where they choose to go, will give them a good base to build on with learning those things. And because Xfinity and Cup tend to run the same track the same week, so they can get a practice weekend on Thursday night before they go run the Cup. And Tuesdays is really good for your short tracks. Like everybody knows, the short track, you got to learn when you can make a move, when you can't make a move. Sometimes you're just going to have to ride behind somebody because you can't pass them safely, and you're going to have to hopefully you get good for green flag runs. You'd have to learn how to conserve your tires, when to make a move and when not to make a move. So Tuesday's a good breeding ground to take the longer races in Xfinity and the Cup on Sundays.
Yeah, it's funny hearing you guys talk about guys that come strictly from the open servers. Racecraft is not learned in those servers. There's not much of it going around in those. I think it's a polite way to put it. And I mean, I feel for iRacing because I think it would almost be impossible for them to police everything that's on there. And that's kind of that their iRacing success is also probably a little bit to their detriment, because you've got folks that want a sim experience, and then you've got gamers, and both are okay to have. But when you drop them both on the track at the same time, it's kind of like mud and water, or dirt and water. You're just gonna get mud,
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's always a tough one.
At the time of this recording, there's a new option for those folks who are pure gamers, and we'll see if that has any impact on iRacing.
Yeah, they can run AI. Well, for the asphalt, as a dirt guy, they're
Oh, sorry,
They
I
seem to
didn't
be-
know there
they
were still
seem-
dirt guys around. I thought they were all extinct.
Oh, here we
iRacing,
go.
iRacing hasn't given you guys a nugget for what, 4 years?
Yeah. You know what though? It is definitely a niche for the dirt side of things, and I think it. The funny thing is even on the dirt side, I'll even take a second here and laugh at us ourselves. We can't even argue between late models and sprint cars. Oh, they got to be pushed. No, they can't. We eat our own. So, if you're an
Right.
asphalt oval man and you like the Cars Tour, you like NASCAR, you like IndyCar, dirt guys can't even get out of their own way to agree about which car, oh, those modifieds are so damn ugly, the late models, and it's, I can almost hear the producer Lowell laughing in my ear right now. I'm thinking so, but all right, I digress here. Josh, get us back on track here about their league and what goes on their track.
All right,
It's
so
up to you.
curious on this. It's one of the guys that I think this is just for the ARCA series. It might be for all. The fast repair. I'm really curious on that one, especially where you guys have really good, respectful racing. Just the thought process on actually allowing one fast repair during the races. Is there a reason for that? Just curious on that.
It's not by my choice.
Yeah. Well, you give your perspective, Mark, and then I'll give a little bit of history to round it out. But give me your perspective.
I mean, I've run in leagues with it and without it, and sometimes it does tend to clean up the racing if people know they don't have that spare car in the in the pits. But I think to have a fun, respectful, good league, and especially when you have a really wide range scale of abilities, it's probably better to have that fast repair, just because you have an individual who maybe is not as skilled or just learning and they tend to take out somebody or cause that big one at Daytona or one of the big tracks or something. At least everybody's got that second chance at one reset to get back into the race and finish the race. So I see both things. I prefer no fast repair, but I understand why most leagues allow a fast repair, and I'll take it away from there.
Well, I'll just tack on that it keeps it friendly. One of the things that it does for you is that if someone makes a mistake and you are the victim of that mistake, there's far less chance of you losing your cool or rage quitting or whatever, because you've got a fast repair. And as Mark said, we do have a wide range of skills. We've got guys who are incredibly fast, incredibly skilled, running the same track as guys who are on the low end of intermediate. And everybody makes mistakes, but certainly when you put those skill sets together, accidents happen. And so I think it just helps keep everything a lot more friendly. And the other thing it does is it takes away a little bit of the discouragement of a new driver, especially new to league racing or even new to iRacing, that they think, oh, well, I ran my car into the wall. That's it. I'm done for the night. And it's only lap 35. And there's a level of discouragement. So I think Mark's hit it on the head, which is it just adds to for our league, it adds to the let's keep it friendly.
I like that. I was just curious because I was noticing that. I'm just like, with how good these guys are, like they do pretty well. I'm like, fast repair, but I mean, again, that's why I had to ask the question, because I'm just curious.
Yeah. Good question.
Do you guys limit tire sets?
Yes. The ARCA has one set in the pits. Xfinity has 3. Cup has 3 also, Al, or 2?
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
See, to me, that's a great way to balance the fast repair, adding it in there, because if you limit the tires, you're still forcing drivers to take care of their stuff. Maybe not push stuff. Why take chances on lap 10 of a 100-lap race, because you don't want to use up your tires. So I always thought, for me anyway, that if you're going to do the fast repair, limit the tires.
Yeah.
Still force the drivers to take care of their equipment. And
And we had to go to one. We went to one when we were running the cars, the late model cars tour for our Tuesday nights, because when they came out with the new version of that car, the tire model we found had very little wear. It was sensitive to heat, but it had, compared to the other oval cars, it had almost, I say no wear, but much less wear. So we wanted to try to set up a penalty for guys who wanted a hot lap, and the penalty is you only have one set of tires to last you 150 laps at a short track. So when the ARCA car came out and we tested that, lo and behold, whoever did the tire model for the late model must have done the tire model for the ARCA car, because it also has very little wear and it is sensitive to heat. So we carried the one set limit from the late model to the ARCA when we brought ARCA out on Tuesdays.
Well, cool. Like I said, I think that's a great way to balance the two on that. At least my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
When the season comes to an end, what is your process? And are you going to, because Mark, you talked about, we'll have a go at something, see if it works or whatever. What kind of discussions do you guys have, and what goes into your decision making? Okay, we ran ARCA this season. Next season we're going to go back to the late model, the car store, let's say. If you're going to walk through that process, how do you guys, what do you guys take into consideration on deciding what car you're going to run?
I think it has to do with how well the season usually goes. Like the last season in ARCA was extremely good. This season is continuing that same trend where everything is going well. I think the reason we went from the late model to the ARCA was because in the late model we had a couple of people who were very dominant in the late model, and it was getting kind of a, a couple of people would pretty much walk away with every race. And then the ARCA car, they just had come out with they revamped the ARCA, got rid of the old one and revamped it with the new one, and it raced pretty well. So we decided to put it in the season and it did really well. So we're continuing it over right now, and I think we'll probably continue with it next season based on how it's going this season too. I think it might be a core until we decide we want to change the short track up, maybe go to something, maybe an SK or a modified or something. I don't know, how that goes. But right now it's doing very well. Everybody seems to like it, and the racing is great.
Yeah, attendance has a factor on it as well. We've seen some of our series, they'll be strong for a season or two. And when I should have said that our seasons are roughly 14 weeks. I don't know if I mentioned that before. So we're not talking about year-long seasons or anything. So
yeah.
So if we see attendance starting to drop, that's an indicator to us that there's lack of interest and support in that. And we also there's been some great work by one of our admins, a couple of them actually. I'll call out Jason Benson and Steve McClendon. They've both contributed to an effort where we're able to look at things like the percentage of laps run under caution, the number of total laps, the number of total cautions, the number of drivers who finished on the lead lap. Like, there's all these data points that they've in one form or another have been able to push out some sort of evaluations about how the series are going, not just from a who wins and who loses. Mark's quite right that part of the reason we got rid of late model was because we had two guys who were winning every race, which ironically no longer in the league. But anyway, so we try to look at it from lots of different ways, because Mark said, asked the question, why does he do his volunteering? He said, well, I want to make the product better, I want to make the league better, and that's why we do stuff like that, because if we can be a little bit ahead of the curve in what might be interest to our drivers and what sets up good racing, then we're going to do it, because that means that we've got a better league overall.
Yeah, and that was actually a big reason why I asked him that question. It was kind of a loaded question a little bit, and it was, well, as you and Josh both as league owners, you can't do it alone, especially running the 5 nights. And, I think that's to find good, solid people to make part of your leadership team is really I just don't know that you can put into words how much that increases how good your league is. I mean, I've surfed around, looked for different leagues, when I mean, you can tell well-run leagues in like 2 seconds flat just by the on-track product. Never mind talking to them, finding out the lineup or anything else, but you can watch and get into a server with that league, and literally by the end of the heat races or the first night of racing or whatever, you know if you found a pretty decent league or not. And a lot of that comes with the structure at the top of a league. And like I said, that's a topic that I don't think a lot of people pay a whole lot of attention to. And actually, if you're part of that leadership team, strengthening it and evaluating yourselves as much as you are your league, and a lot of that stuff should happen. It should be, as much as I want to say hobby, but there's got to be a business aspect to it if you're going to run a league, I would think.
Yeah, structure needs to be structure, and being able to have, like you said, find great people who want to contribute. Like, we have lots of great people. Not everybody has the time or the willingness to actually say, well, I'm going to do more than just enjoy the league. I'm going to contribute to it. And those don't grow on trees. So whenever we find someone like Mark or the other 8 or 9 guys that we've got on the team, like, you grab onto them and you squeeze them for everything they'll give you, because once they sign up, they're yours, right? Until they finally dry up and blow away.
It's that imaginary salary. You're on salary now. You eat. Yeah,
for sure.
No, but yeah, like I said, I think that's one of the most underrated things. I mean, I've known a lot of league owners through the years, and there's probably 2 or 3 that I know of that do it right. In the grand scheme of things, but yeah, maybe we could do a show on that. What does it take to run a league? That would be a very interesting topic. And as long as everybody was honest,
right,
about it, because I'm sure, yeah. I mean, and there's some pitfalls, but there's also some great rewards. I mean, lifelong friends, and
I'd love to hear some other perspectives on that, because I'm sure there's things I'm not doing right.
Maybe we'll have you back, and we'll Josh, and
let me know
a couple of others, and we'll do a
great
whole thing on owning a league there. I think that'd be a very interesting topic. Again, Josh, I'm going to defer to you to bring us back on track here about their league here.
So just a curiosity point on this. This is more just kind of help promote you guys and kind of what you do. Anybody that's watching this that's really considering maybe joining you guys for the next ARCA series or maybe this season, do you guys do recruitment races, like hosted sessions once the season's over? What do you guys do? Anybody who's interested, is it just go on to Discord and apply through that? Like, what do you guys do as like a process for that?
Yeah, so we have run recruitment races, open, hosted races, and promoted them on the forums and on Reddit and whatever. And the conversion rate from those open recruitment races is atrocious. It's unbelievably bad, and it's because you're just getting somebody who clicked on a list of upcoming races, and that hosted races came up, and they clicked on it and they joined. They have no interest in joining the league, and that's my belief on why those recruitment races are not fruitful. So we don't lean on that. So when the season is coming to an end, I make some social posts and forum posts and let people know that the next season's coming up. We've also been very fortunate to have some great partnerships over the years, and they've helped expose some players, some drivers to our league. But so from a recruitment standpoint, we don't put much stock into those recruitment races. However, we have just a very basic website, triplebypassracing.com, and that holds a calendar, a league calendar that you can look at anytime of what races are coming up. And there's a link to our Discord. And one of the ways that we weed out people who aren't capable of racing with us is that there's a very simple 2-step process for joining our league. One is clicking on the Discord icon, and number 2 is going to the numbers channel and requesting a number from a sheet. And if you're not able to do those 2 things, then you're probably not a suitable candidate to be racing in our league. So that's the funnel that people come in through. Is they join us in Discord, they grab a number which is league wide, and hop into some racing.
Well, real quick, what's the name of the website? Bypass.
triplebypassracing.com.
There you go. So
Yeah.
that for the second time there, everybody can.
Yeah, that's good.
The
Thanks.
first time they can make sure they put that down.
Absolutely.
Real quick here, I mean, I think probably the last question I would think is where did the name come from, Triple Bypass? Because as soon as I hear that, it sounds like a serious situation was averted, I guess, through medicine, So where did the name of that come from?
Well, the clever answer would be to say it's heartbreaking racing, and that's the reason that we have triple bypasses. But that's a clever answer. The truth of it is that the group of us that were putting together the very frantic plans to stand up this new league, one of our wives, it was actually Jason Benson's wife. Hi, Cora, if you ever see this, hi. She came up with the suggestion, and that was because we're a pretty we're an older group. To be nice about it, there were no 19-year-old or 21-year-olds in our group that started our league. We were all on the other side of 40 for sure, and in some cases like mine and Mark's much older than I am, by the way. So that was
I'm part of the gray, so
yeah. So that was a little bit of a nod to our age, the group of guys that started it, and thanks to Cora for coming up with that clever name. But it works on a couple of different levels for us, and
sure,
we like it.
Yeah, I mean, it can make the league of photo finishes, that kind of thing, So yeah, cool thing there, and I was kind of curious, and first time that I saw your guys' logo and everything when you first did the first VGN broadcast, that was a question I wanted to ask from the moment I heard of you guys. Where'd that name come from? That sounded like there was a cool story, which there was behind the name.
Yeah.
So
it just wasn't it wasn't a cool story that had to do with heart surgery, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I thought either you guys loved steak or it was a heart surgery kind of thing. It was one or the other. So, but
that's great.
No, that's pretty cool though. I still like the story that how it came about. That's a cool, it lends into that community vibe that I feel like you've kind of got going there. A lot of people pull in, get their opinions, it gets mixed around, and hopefully the end result is something positive, which looks like more times than not that's how things come out. So that's pretty cool. So for all the people laughing about all the older jokes, see, with age comes wisdom. So that's why that happens, just for the record. Mm-hmm. So, but hey, Josh, I told him the last question for me. Do you have any other questions or anything like that?
Nope, I am good.
Okay. Well, I always kind of wrap the show up here, and we always like to discuss on what's going on this week on VGN that you guys will see coming up here. And you guys, unfortunately, won't be a part of the Tuesday night. They'll go back to the yesteryear, and that's going to be an interesting race. That's going to be the Tour Mods at the Pocono Speedway. Man, I might have to dust off the mod to come run that. I've always wanted to run one of those Tour Mods on one of those really big tracks. So that'll be on Tuesday. Saturday, Josh, you guys have this week off? Oh, you guys are done. You wrapped your season up, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So next after that will be Saturday night. The old Irwindale Speedway will be on display there with the BRL Late Model Invitational Series, and then Sunday night. Oh man, it's a big one. I get to be on the call for this one, but Sunday night the Yesteryear Cup Series will be from the mighty Talladega Speedway, Super Speedway. So I can't wait to see how those OBR guys tackle that, especially in the midst of their playoffs, and getting to that Final Four is on the line at this point. So that's pretty wild. And also, you know what? Guess what? We got another show coming up next week. We hope you guys join us for that. It's going to be, we talked about owning a league on this one a little bit, quite a bit. And maybe we need to follow up. Next week we're going to talk league stats with Steve Hilbert, Dan Hill, Eric Essery, and how, running the league and keeping everybody informed with points and things like that. So that'll be an interesting episode to tune into next week. Kind of a tech nerdy one, but you never know. You might come up with some really great ideas for your own league to apply points and doing other things like that. So please come and join us next Tuesday. But until then, I am John Hine along with Josh Buckley, and we thank you for joining us today. We'll hope to see you again next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skinner Creek Motorsports Group.